jaw locked up tight. All the local toddlers will sleep well tonight. Stop beating, beating, stop beating, beating, stop beating. My heart stop beating, beating. It don't matter if you're a rabbi, you just better read me my last rites. Oh God, I'm falling, and I can't get up. I'm gonna die soon. To the grave I go, and he'll take me there. Oh God, I'm falling, and I can't get up. I'm gonna die soon. To the grave I go, and he'll take me there. Did you remember the line? So my grave don't stink. Did you remember the line? So my corpse doesn't rise. Did you remember the line? So my grave don't stink. Did you remember the line? So my corpse doesn't rise. Because I'm dead, Shimona. You know I'm dead, you know it. You know I'm dead, Shimona. You know, and the whole world has to go all in by on my elbows once again, 'cause I'm dead.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Pod of Thunder, the recognized symbol of excellence in rock and roll podcasting. It's your buddy Andy, along with Chris L. Let's just get right into it. Chris, what's going on here today?
Legit tears coming down. Oh, that's a classic.
Probably,
I don't care what anybody says.
I think explanation is probably needed, though.
We might be the only two people on the planet who deem it that a classic, but that is a comedic masterpiece, in my opinion. Oh, God.
So, of course, tomorrow would be the 10-year anniversary of the passing of Michael Jackson. And it's also the 10-year anniversary of the recording of that dreadful, mean-spirited parody.
Yeah, that one came together quick. Made it out into the public realm almost immediately.
That's part of what was so excellent about that.
The timing of it, as they say, major part of comedy is the timing. And since it's 10 years old, that is not really a factor at this point. But
well, no, but it is the anniversary, so
right. But I mean,
we can look back on it
to have turned that around in the time frame that we did back in the day.
What was it, like 2 days
at the most?
At the most, right.
The lyrics came together as what I've called one of the greatest creative sessions of my entire life. Sitting over here in the beer tent or near the beer tent of this local festival that happens around this time of year every year.
Yep.
I'd say we knocked out all those lyrics in inside of 5 minutes, wouldn't you?
Probably. Yeah.
They just came pouring out.
Yeah.
And then Andy went into the production room, turned it around, and there we have it. Now, it was up on YouTube for a while, and then something happened, Andy?
It was on YouTube for several years because the reason we did it, other than inspiration, we had this other online internet radio show and posted it on the YouTube page for that show 10 years ago, before Pot of Thunder. And I noticed eventually that I couldn't find it anymore, and there was no updates to this page for years. But I was like, why can't I find any of the stuff that we had on this YouTube page? And I learned that there were so many complaints and it was flagged so many times that the entire channel, which the rest of it was not like that. There's nothing else on that level of, I don't know. I don't even want to say offensiveness, but whatever you want to call it. Insensitive, whatever. But there nothing else like that. But apparently that was enough. And it was, I wouldn't say it was a viral hit in any capacity, but it had several thousand listens. Maybe 10, I don't know, a good amount, but it had so many negative comments. It was one of those where it must have been passed around by people who did not appreciate it. So the majority of the comments were negative. It wasn't really anything that was found by people who enjoyed it.
And it caused an entire YouTube channel to be nuked.
Nuked and not able to be brought back after I tried, once I found out that it was gone. I think I missed the window of an appeal process or something.
Of all the crap that's on YouTube.
Yeah, all the crazy stuff.
A death parody collection of songs about what most people believe to be a serial pedophile is pulled from YouTube.
Yep.
And what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Where are the priorities?
Oh, well.
So anyway, Andy went digging around in his old files and found it.
Yeah, I found an old hard drive that still had it on there.
Probably are not going to put it on our YouTube channel because we don't want to lose that outlet.
Yeah, we don't want to lose all the work we've put into that.
It is now in this episode, and people really have to look for it to try and take it down again. It's not happening.
Yeah, good old days.
I don't know. I'm probably, like I said, the only person, even more so than Andy, that regards it so highly, but
yeah,
literally tears streaming down as I was listening to that earlier. Because again, it was gone for years.
Yeah, you haven't heard this for so long, right?
And
for what, like 5 years probably?
Probably.
Yeah.
And it was almost a daily listen for years for me.
Daily listen.
One of my most proud moments in a creative sense, no question about it.
That's funny. All right. Well, there it is. You know, I haven't heard much about the 10-year anniversary of Michael Jackson's passing. Is that just something they're kind of not, I don't know, they're not dusting off all the old video clips because of the somewhat recent documentary series? That's kind of...
Yeah, that's a good question. I never really thought about it. But yeah, you'd think coming up on a milestone anniversary.
You'd think there'd be specials on network TV, something, right?
You would think, but
I haven't seen anything. I saw one magazine cover that I was like, oh, that is right. That is 10 years. That was it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure if it was 9 or 10 years. But yep, 10 years right now. As of tomorrow.
Well, and that's the other thing. Why do they only call even numbers a milestone anniversary or multiples of 5?
That's weird.
Why couldn't it have been a milestone last year when it was 9?
It doesn't make any sense.
Question that probably doesn't warrant much pondering,
but I don't know. Big even numbers.
Who decides what a milestone is, and why does it have to be an even number and or divisible by 5? That's my question for society at large today.
I'm going to go ahead and answer it and say it's because people have decided they don't want to be reminded of anything every year.
Depends on what it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that people are happy to be reminded of every year. Such a thing happened last Friday, National Selfie Day. I'm sure people are genuinely excited by that and look forward to it every year.
Do they?
I have
no idea. I missed it. I guess I have to wait till next year.
Well, you can't take any selfies any other day.
No, that's it. So, yeah, wild time, huh? So, I wasn't alive for Kennedy's assassination or Martin Luther King or Elvis dying. I would say the biggest celebrity or whatever I don't know if you want to say celebrity for the president, but you know what I mean. Public figure death would be Michael Jackson in my lifetime. How about you?
Was it really?
Yeah, I think so.
It's shocking. Well, not really shocking, but I guess it makes sense. I just never thought there's no other significant celebrities. I'm trying to think. No surprising deaths. There have been a lot lately, but
yeah, I guess you could just say other presidents, but they didn't die in such a fashion where it's.
Well, no, there have been no presidential assassinations yet, or since then.
No.
So, celebrity dying? I don't know. I was alive when Elvis kicked it, but that was in the pre-mass media era, so you weren't bombarded on multiple media outlets about it. Obviously, you heard about it, and it was all over the headlines. But
yeah,
I'd say Prince's death was pretty shocking and out of nowhere.
Yeah, but I would say it was both of those things, but I don't think it had the insane around-the-clock coverage that the Michael Jackson death had.
No, you're probably right.
No.
I mean, the only thing I can equate to that, and it's not, well, it wasn't this person's death, but other people died, was the OJ
that might have
white
been,
Bronco chase.
That was probably bigger, but
that's one where it's, those moments where people are like, you remember exactly where you were and what you were doing.
Yeah.
It was at a friend's place. We were getting ready to go to a show with some local bands at the Avalon in Chicago, which is no longer there.
Where was that at?
Belmont and Halstead, right around the corner from the Vic.
Yeah.
It's a tanning salon now, I think.
Okay.
And the news cut in with the coverage. We could not tear ourselves away from the TV. And make no mistake about it, people watched that because they believed, we certainly did, that someone was going to blow their head off on live TV, and you were going to be sitting there watching it.
Yeah, either that was going to happen or he was going to get out and start shooting.
Well, that's what I mean.
So there's going to be some kind of altercation.
Right. You weren't sitting there watching it, waiting for him to emerge from the car with his hands on his back of the head and be apprehended in his driveway. You were waiting for someone to blow the crown of their head off sky high or engage in a gun battle, because they weren't turning the cameras off for anything.
Definitely not. And it was on every channel pretty much, wasn't it? It was
absolutely.
One of those, whatever's going on, we don't care.
Yeah, started with the Bronco chase, ended up in his driveway, and then they were holed up in that vehicle for hours, I think, before
he got out.
There was finally some resolution, so...
And what's the deal now? He's on Twitter. OJ's on Twitter now?
Taken to Twitter, saying he's got to get even with some people. I don't know.
Why would that be?
Who knows?
What's wrong with him?
He every word out of his mouth is a reminder that he should be locked up.
Yeah.
He's not. He's a danger to society. No question about it.
And then the other story from around the same time as this recent OJ tweet was that Bill Cosby put out a tweet on Father's Day and called himself America's favorite dad in the tweet.
Cosby did?
Yeah.
What, isn't he in prison?
Yeah, it said it was, what would the word be? Dictated via phone call to someone to post it on social media. I got to find it now. But, yeah. It was something about the responsibility of being a father.
And you know what? Maybe we should get a Ground Roots campaign to get Cosby's Twitter shut down in a similar fashion to how the Off the Handle Radio YouTube account was.
Well, we committed
destroyed.
We committed greater sins, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Oh, here's actually okay. I got it. Hey, this sounds like my gimmick a little bit. Hey, it's America's dad. I know it's late, but to all of the dads, it's an honor to be called a father. So let's make today a renewed oath to fulfilling our purpose, strengthening our families and communities. Happy Father's Day. Blah, 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 blah. Hashtag America's favorite dad. Hashtag far from finished. Is that a threat?
Yeah. First of all, he opens with the Fat Albert tagline, which is is worthy of mention.
Yeah.
And then the defiant hashtag.
Yeah.
It's like the ego on these people.
Or maybe this is like all right, I'm going to say this, and then we could plea insanity and get me out of here, and I could die at home.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what the hell's going on there?
What a time.
Most people who read that would share the opinion of Chicago's former mayor when they would say, Bill Cosby tweeting about Father's Day?
How dare him? How dare him?
It's right up there. I think that should be a segment each week, the how dare him moment.
I like this.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, along.
People in general just, you hear it on the sports talk radio shows. It's like stuff that doesn't necessarily have to do with the show, but something that happened in the news that occurred.
I'm on board
that generates that. So I think that should be a thing.
The weekly how dare him. I like it. The how dare him of the week.
Hashtag HDH.
Yeah. Aside from his comedic contribution to the world, I'd say Bill Cosby is a
total waste of skin and life.
At this point.
Probably. Right? Certainly his victims think so.
Yeah.
Total fucking dewclaw.
Yes, sir. That's him.
That's him.
All right. So speaking of, I wouldn't say waste of skin and life, but we have no skin and life in the buddy bench.
No, we
real
don't.
Or virtual today.
Nope.
So we have another 2-man episode,
mm-hmm.
which means we are going to pull a random song from the listener submission list, which people seem to enjoy.
Yeah.
In fact, I think people tend to favor it, but our policy when we have guests on their first appearance, they get to pick the song. Then if they want to come on again, we can schedule it. They're going to have to do the random like we do when it's just the two of us. So yeah. I'm going to do the pick this week. It's Andy did last week's. What was the Black Sabbath song, Snowblind.
Yep.
All right. You got the generator up and running?
I've got it up and running.
All right, let me sashay a number over there.
We've got number 487. Chris is going to make his way over here. There he is. He's up. He's coming over. And we'll see what he says. Is he going to approve of this one or shut it down?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, okay. Let's do what he says. All right. Do you want to...
Thought about moving along to the next trick with it, but I think it's interesting enough to warrant an episode.
Okay.
It's one that I have the album, but it's a track that I'm not super familiar with.
Same here.
I mean, I know I've heard it, but it isn't one of the go-to tracks on here. And everybody knows what it is now, so let's just get right to it.
Do you want to do the thing, or you want me to do the thing?
You can do it.
Okay.
All right, Hammo. This one's called
Ain't No Right.
Off of
Ritual de lo Habitual
by the band
Jane's Addiction.
Ow!
Jane's Addiction. I will say this was the only Jane's Addiction album that our family had. The reason I say it that way is because it was me, Nick, and our oldest brother, Jay. We sort of had, we had our own CDs that we all bought. Jay had the most, obviously, oldest, and had money from working, but, kind of communal. One stereo, so there you go. But this was the only Jane's Addiction album we had in the house. And I'm looking at it now. We had the generic black and white text cover, not whatever's going on the actual intended release cover.
Yeah, they ended up banning that because there's cartoons depiction of nipples and pubic hair.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid anybody should see anything like that.
Yeah, that and the Michael Jackson death parody, both gone from the history books.
Over the top, offensive stuff. Can't have it.
But you would have seen the OJ suicide if it happened. On every channel, no problem.
Right, and if you'd depicted people on this Jane's Addiction cover having been raked with gunfire, innards pulled out of their bodies, strewn all over the place, that would have been totally fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, nobody's banning that in America. What a wonderful country this is.
Yeah.
Twisted people making decisions in this country for centuries. All dates back to all the... we even want to have this conversation, but it all dates back to the weirdness of organized religion and the control they seek to have over people.
Yeah. It is
ultimately that's where it's all rooted in.
It is a bizarre thing.
Puritanic attitudes about sex and nudity versus gore and violence.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. I know we're kind of, we're not breaking any new ground by talking about that, but it is weird to have the shame of a body part. That's unacceptable and that's shameful, but yeah.
And I wonder if the Jane's Addiction camp, I know they were provocative and they embraced that, but I wonder if they even thought that this would cause such a stir with this cover.
I doubt it. I mean, I feel like he wouldn't put as much effort into it, and it looks like there's a lot of effort put into it.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is they were when all the controversy happened, they were flat out shocked at what was going on. Like this is really causing such a stir. This is getting banned. Pathetic. Really ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this album was 89 or later?
1990.
Okay. Nothing Shocking was the first major release, right? So that was probably 88.
I believe it's 88, but I'm double checking. Let's get all this in front of us. Yeah, Nothing Shocking's 88. This is 90, and then that's it until 2003. So.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. 2003 was the Strays album, right?
Yep.
So in 88, I was the entertainment editor of the school newspaper, the State News at Michigan State University. And we would always get boxes of albums from the local label reps, and there were one or more from every label in every major college town, publicizing their roster of music and trying to get reviews out there, raise awareness of all the bands they were putting out. And I remember this one came, for some reason, they always sent vinyl, but for some reason they sent this album in the cassette.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It
didn't matter. I mean, everybody had record players and cassette players, so it didn't really matter what it was. But
yeah.
This one came on cassette, and the write-up, everyone came with a press kit and a bio, and you're like, okay, these guys are from L.A., name of the band Jane's Addiction. You're thinking that they're going to be kind of the hair metal ilk, maybe,
right?
But you look at the album cover, you got Navarro back in the day with and Perry Farrell both had the dreadlocks, the white guy dreadlocks.
Yeah, right.
So they were different looking for sure. So that intrigued me to give it a listen. And then obviously the voice of Perry Farrell and just the sound of the band was markedly different. And Living Color, Vivid came out also in 1988. These two albums signaled to me that there was other stuff out there than the hair metal in terms of hard rock music. That the hair metal thing was definitely running its course. Guns N' Roses was a breath of fresh air, but there was still plenty of cheese out there, and Guns N' Roses was still in that wheelhouse, just better and more dangerous.
Yeah.
But Living Colour different, obviously, because they were black guys. But I wouldn't necessarily call them edgy, so to speak, or dangerous. They were just different, and they were really good, really fucking good. These guys, you looked at them, you listened to it, and you're just like, okay, there is something different coming out of LA, at least in the case of these guys, and it's refreshing. And I would point to Jane's Addiction and add in Nirvana and the Red Hot Chili Peppers as the big three of ushering in alternative / grunge and ushering out hair metal.
You think so? Those are the ones?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, Nirvana representing the Seattle sound. And then the Chili Peppers and Jane's Addiction, 2 LA bands, but totally different approaches to music. Mm-hmm. But all three hugely popular, of course. Jane's Addiction, Perry Farrell founded Lollapalooza, which back in the day was a truly revolutionary thing.
Yeah.
They were just different and refreshing and signaling that a change was on the horizon. Couldn't really pinpoint when it was going to be or how significant it would end up being, but from first listen, anybody who heard Nothing's Shocking had to have been like, okay, something different is going on in LA.
Mm-hmm. I recently watched The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, which I'm sure you've seen at some point, right?
Seen that, yep.
And this is probably going to upset some of the listeners who really love that era. But looking back on it, it does come across as really cheesy. And I don't think that was the intention at the time when the movie came out. Or maybe it's just what I've gravitated towards after the fact, and I can look back at it differently. But the people come across as so cheesy in that movie.
See, I believe that, and I can't think of her name who made the movie.
Penelope Spheris.
I think she intentionally tried to cast the movement, so to speak, in a negative light.
You think so?
And I don't think she had to try very hard to do it.
Yeah.
But I think she hand-selected, I can't think of the band, but the one... There's one band on there that is so stupid and so brainless, the quintessential himbos, brainless dudes being depicted. And if you wanted to cast the movement in a better light, you would have edited them out. You would not have the Chris Holmes scene, which has become an iconic thing. Of him in the pool, You wouldn't have the ridiculously, obviously staged scenes of Ozzy cooking eggs.
Yeah.
And just the way that scene is cut, it's completely contrived. Whether or not Ozzy was in on it.
There's I read something about it after I watched it, and it said that was talked about, in the 90s at some point, that it was a staged, the Ozzy scene was staged.
It's obviously staged. It was. I don't know if Ozzy deserves credit for this, but it was. I could never figure out fully whether he was in on it. But in terms of portraying ridiculousness, you could tell that it was intentionally concocted that way. So, and I don't really have a problem with it. I don't dislike the woman for it, but my opinion is that movie was made with the intent of exposing that scene as being garbage for the most part.
Would you put that movie in there too then as one of the things that sort of...
I never thought of that, but I could see it contributing to that. People had just had enough at that point.
Yeah.
And then, this Ritual de lo Habitual, the first album, Nothing Shocking, Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I mean, albums like these were coming out and getting a lot of attention, and they were different and refreshing, and you could sense that something was about to hopefully be different. I don't think Jane's Addiction gets as much crap from hair metal fans as torpedoing the genre.
No,
like Nirvana does.
They're the chosen poster boys for being responsible, and
but they did it to themselves. Like I said, the Penelope lady who made the Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, if that was her agenda, and I believe it is, she did not have to put a whole ton of effort into making these guys look like morons. They did a great job of just roll camera and let them do their thing.
Yeah. There were, in her defense, though, there were a couple people who came across as being somewhat sensible. Like,
oh, absolutely, it's a well done movie.
Yeah, it's not only the one side.
It's not a complete ham-fisted hit job.
Yeah,
she actually did a pretty good job of having a handful of intelligent guys talking about it.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm sure that, I get the sense that there was some agenda there to portray this thing as a garbage musical movement.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you know about this song? This is track 3 of 9. It is the only song on the album with the explicit label next to it.
Yeah, this one I don't know too much about. I mean, I know I've heard it. I've heard the album a few times, but this is not, I wouldn't say, a go-to song. And I'm sure I haven't heard it in close to 30 years since the album came out. So
you didn't keep the cassette?
Well, that was Nothing Shocking.
Oh, it was Nothing Shocking.
Previous one. Well, this cassette was another one that was in rotation in the basement workout room. It was referenced in the Sexy Mexican Maid episode. So I'm sure this is one I've heard multiple times. It's just not ringing a bell for me.
Okay. All right. Well, it's 3 minutes and 34 seconds.
Thank God nobody picked what's the 10-minute...
3 days is 10 minutes and 48 seconds.
Well, let me correct myself. People have submitted that. Thank God it didn't come up. It was a near miss because I don't know what we would do with a 10-minute song on this show. That might be the end of the show if we tried it. So that was a near miss. Yep. But this should be interesting. I mean, this is definitely a important, significant band in rock history, and it never really occurs to me, but when you mention their discography, 2 albums and then 13 years until the third one, I mean, that's worse than Boston, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of the difference in time between Don't Look Back and Third Stage. So it's interesting.
But was Boston still together?
I don't think so.
No,
Jane's Addiction was technically still together.
No, I think they were done, and then they had a couple like reunion tours.
Yeah.
I know they had something in the late 90s. They had Flea playing with them at one point.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know Perry Farrell was doing Porno for Pyros.
Right.
I don't even know.
Navarro joined the Chili
Peppers,
so.
but yeah.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on.
And I think Stephen Perkins was Porno for Pyros too, drummer. So I don't know, but
and
that was 2 albums and done.
Yeah,
Porno for Pyros.
Right.
These guys move quick.
And Navarro and Avery had that Deconstruction band. I've got that album. It's interesting. It's different. But yeah, these guys had a huge influence and impact on music in the course of 2 albums. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You could even say that about Guns N' Roses, technically, if you lump Use Your Illusion into one album.
Yeah.
Was that an Appetite? There was Lies in there. the EP of sorts, so 6 songs or something like that. But
and then the covers album.
Yeah.
But
they would be in that wheelhouse too. How you have such a huge influence on music with just 1 or 2 monster albums. I wouldn't even say these were monster albums. I mean, people knew about them. They certainly weren't on the level of Appetite for Destruction.
No, but everyone has heard a song from each album. Everyone knows Jane Says, and everyone knows Been Caught Stealing.
Right. Those are the 2 big ones. This is not one of them, so we have a deep cut here, so it should be interesting.
Are you ready to do it?
I'm ready.
All right.
Now, are you lowering the volume?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
Because I haven't stopped it because I really don't know what to say about it at this point. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not. It's like, I know I've heard this multiple times, but it's been forever. And I'm just soaking it in and just trying to figure out what to make of it. It's very unusual.
It is, but I think it's going places. So we got to stay seated. See where it takes us.
Okay, now it's ringing a bell. Now that sort of iconic bass line, not unlike the bass line that's the main hook of Mountain Song from Nothing Shocking.
Yeah.
And Eric Avery, a very, of all the guys in the band, he's probably the least talked about, but possibly the most influential on the original sound. Yeah, he was a huge part of the songwriting and the creative direction of the band. I mean,
what is he up to?
I don't know. The last time I've remember seeing him, he was playing bass in Alanis Morissette's band, if you can believe that.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what he's doing these days. But he was, like I said, with Navarro, with that Deconstruction band that put out one album, and you can tell that he was almost 100% responsible for the artistic direction on that album. It's very different. But getting back to, his role in this band, I think he was pretty instrumental in dictating the direction, and then just what we're listening to here, just that sort of style of bass playing, very signature in the context of the band. So now it's starting to ring a bell.
Yeah, it's just a weird interlude thing.
And I'm wondering, was that excuse me, was that part of the end of the second song? I'm wondering if there was some sort of spill over there. It's hard to tell the way they index tracks on CDs and now Apple Music, but
yeah, I don't think so. I think that's just its own weird thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Get out! I am skin and bones, I am pony nose, but a motherfucker makes me try. It makes me try, and that ain't wrong. I'll tell you why. There ain't no right. Ain't no wrong now.
Was that a flyover?
Could have been.
It sounded like it. Where's the USA chant?
I don't know. I don't really get the impression that these guys were chest-thumping jingoists, but
Yeah, I
then
guess
again,
not.
maybe they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got that signature vocal style of Perry Farrell there, which by this time, people were waiting for this album. People knew what they were going to get, kind of more so than the first one, and they were on board with it. But when you heard it on the first album, it was completely out of left field, something that you were just not hearing from any other band, certainly not very many bands that hit the mainstream from the LA area.
Yeah.
So, and then, you got Navarro, one of my all-time favorites, underrated guitarist.
He is, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I think he doesn't get a lot of credit just because he's not a super technical virtuoso, but just the attitude and his sound and everything he does on the guitar is much to my liking, and also because of his persona that he's developed over the years, with his reality shows and the Carmen Electra relationship and whatnot. He's become almost kind of like a cartoon character, his facial features and all this other stuff. He's just an odd dude, but just looking at his musicianship taken just exclusively for what it is, the guy's a terrific guitar player. Now, this was 1990, you said?
Yep.
So that would have been early 1990?
August 21st, 1990.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is a full year, actually 13 months before Nevermind came out. So, the seeds were planted for what was going to happen a year later. You almost wonder, though, why this wasn't the band that was chosen by whoever makes those decisions.
It is weird, isn't it?
To be the band that toppled hair metal and ushered in a new thing. 'Cause, I mean, whether it was predetermined, which I believe it probably was, or just happened organically, which I highly doubt, although I think there's some elements of it in there. The way Nirvana became like you said, the symbol, the poster boy band for changing the entire musical landscape was pretty remarkable to see. And the building blocks were there with these guys. Second album out was getting all sorts of airplay, but they were not the cultural phenomenon that Nirvana became. It just makes you wonder why that was the case or wasn't the case.
Do you think part of it is because, I don't know why this would make a difference, but one difference I hear between Nirvana and this is that Nirvana's so much more stripped down, like less busy sounding. And maybe that was part of it, like to remove all, I don't know, excessive flashiness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's part of it. And then the other thing would be the undeniable pop songcraft of Nirvana stuff from Nevermind. Also, the role of Butch Vig, the producer of that album, and steering them down that road. That probably had a fair amount to do with arranging and crafting the songs.
Yeah.
But like on the commute home on Friday, and I don't listen to a ton of Nirvana, but and there's another band, 2 studio albums, and that's it.
Well, they had something before
Bleach, but I mean, in terms of when they came on the radar,
on the radar.
You have Nevermind, In Utero, that was it.
Yes.
So another one that didn't have a huge catalog of music, but just had such an incredible impact on music. But on the commute home, I have both those albums on my iPod. And Come As You Are came on.
Yeah.
Usually I skip Nirvana, but for some reason I was just stuck in traffic and felt like listening to it. You just the melody of the vocals and just the hooks that are through it. They're not New Kids on the Block hooks, but they're still pop hooks in there.
Mm-hmm.
Just that was the X factor. I mean, you don't hear any pop hooks or any compelling melody in what's going on here.
Yeah, that's true.
You got it in spades and pretty much all of the Nirvana stuff. I mean, say what you want about Cobain, but the guy knew how to write a song that could be successful as a pop song in the mainstream, even with an edgy approach and sound to it. See, the thing with Farrell, it's like, you can't barely make out what he's talking about or what he's saying. What he's saying and what he's talking about are two different things, but they're both equal in that you have no idea what the hell it is.
Yeah. Once you read the lyrics, you still don't know what he's talking about.
And again, there's no pop melody in the lyrics to latch on to. Like, come as you are, come as you are, as you were. I mean, that whole vocal line is a melodic hook. There's none of that in here. So that's probably the ultimate explanation.
Yeah, but you could play that song like on a piano and it would sound nice. Come as you are, but this
and I think there's been plenty of like alternative bands or other acts that have done like stripped down acoustic versions. I'm thinking I've heard one by that had a female singer at least, and I can't think of what it is. But yeah, it's like those are pop songs that you can reinterpret. This one would be much more difficult. You probably wouldn't put forth the effort to turn this into a piano ballad.
It couldn't be an elevator music version of this song. You wouldn't know what it is.
No, you wouldn't know what it is. But so ultimately, I think I've answered my own question. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. You're not making any cultural shifts unless there's some element to it that's easily acceptable. Something completely against the grain is just not going to be adopted by the mainstream. Another band that we can bring up in this conversation, looking at them right now, Faith No More.
Yeah, The Real Thing's 89.
A couple radio hits, and, they were known before Nirvana hit, but there was... And, the Epic has the hook of the chorus. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But just... in general, that was just not what they were about, and so they were not going to be the ones to upset, disrupt, if you will, the buzzword of the entrepreneurial set out there. They were not going to disrupt music, and they're about as disruptive a band as you can think of, but they were not going to disrupt it on a grand scale because their music wasn't accessible enough.
Yeah. Right.
So to completely turn a music scene on its head, you would think that means being subversive and completely different and something out of left field, revolutionary. It's actually the opposite.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's almost like the concept of like a vaccination has part of whatever the thing is in it.
Right.
And to get you immune to it or whatever.
Yeah, and in the case of the Seattle sound or grunge, whatever you want to call it, mostly it was the aesthetic.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, you take away the personalities and the visual. It's hard rock music. Yeah, it's lacking the Eddie Van Halen wannabe guitar solos. But, I don't know why, as a hard rock fan, you wouldn't like grunge or hard alternative type music. It's got the same aggression and energy to it. It might not be a positive energy. It might be a negative energy.
Yeah.
But I don't know why you would dismiss it and hate it outright.
Yeah.
But
maybe it's just it's not necessarily party music.
no, it's definitely not that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure plenty of ball cap wearing bros threw on Nirvana at their parties. During that time, just because if you were, again, wanting to have people over to your parties, you had to play the music of the day, and that was the music of the day.
Yeah.
So, just interesting dynamic how some bands are the chosen ones, others are not. Some accidentally come into the mainstream. I would say Jane's and Faith No More fit that bill. Like Faith No More putting out Epic. Do you think they even imagined that it would have that iconic video and would put them on the map in that fashion?
Probably
you even
not.
think they were even, I mean, obviously more about Mike Patton and his headspace than me, but conscious effort on their part to become MTV sensations?
No, I don't think so. I think because he was new, he hadn't done anything with them.
Right.
He auditioned, and then they started recording that album, and there were songs that were mostly written, and then he wrote the lyrics and added to it. But he was 20,
Right.
never been in a studio. Like, I don't think they knew what they were going to get.
But they were on a major label.
Yeah, they were on Slash through Warner Brothers or whatever that relationship was.
It's the same deal with Nirvana. They come out and they're like surprised that they got so popular. It's like, motherfuckers, you were on Geffen.
Yeah.
You don't record for Geffen Records unless you have either an expectation or a desire to crack through on a major scale.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think it's the same thing as recording in your basement and then being on the Grammys
or
something.
leaving Sub Pop to join Geffen Records.
Right,
I mean,
but I think maybe those bands don't realize that it's actually going to work. Maybe they think in their own head, oh, this is one of those, we got a deal, and it might do okay, it might flop.
Yeah, and I don't think
explodes.
anybody is good in Nirvana's position in mid 1991. It could have reasonably expected that was going to happen.
No,
but you're still on Geffen. I mean, this is the label of Whitesnake and got all sorts of other bands that they probably despised.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And you're infiltrating that scene in one way or another. So I don't know. It's just all very interesting having lived through that, and actually being in an aspiring band in Chicago when all this was happening. It was just all interesting to see who made it through, who didn't.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out why it did for one band and not for the other.
What factors do they have that got them to the next level?
Yeah.
Leveled up. It is
all
strange.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It's a repeated flyover.
Yeah, and I'm listening to it. I'm chuckling at it. It's just like, what was the production decision as to have that sound effect whooshing in and out? And that's the thing that cracks me up about Perry Farrell. What a hilarious character that guy is. You've seen him perform recently, and I didn't see much footage of them back in the day, so I don't know if he was doing this back then, but he has like a rack case set up on a stand, angled up. It's got like vocal effect rack gear in it that he manipulates
Yeah.
as the show goes on. So he's making shit like that happen on stage.
Yeah.
And the best part about him, okay, we always talk about how Vince Neil is slugging out of the Coors Light bottle on the drum riser. Perry Farrell sashays out on stage with a bottle of red wine, nice label, all this stuff, slugs straight out of the bottle throughout the whole performance. It cracks me up watching that guy in action.
How was he? I haven't seen any recent footage.
Oh, they're
of him.
great. I think
still
they've
have
always
some.
been good. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't like the Strays album, but I thought it was, from a production standpoint, it was definitely one of those where they polished it up and sheened it up, and people didn't like that. But I think the songs are good, and Navarro is great on it. But I mean, he's the most recent stuff I've seen from them, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They're still doing great on stage.
Yeah. Is it the same guy? Is Eric Avery back in? Or
No, he's not. He hasn't been back in since this
then.
album came out. But no, he comes sashaying out in this big pimp hat and bottle of red wine, and just turning knobs on his rack gear and slugging wine straight out of the bottle and doing his thing. He's one of the great characters in music history.
Yeah, I think I have a correction for us. I don't think it's Eric Avery. It's Chris Chaney.
Currently.
Are you sure? I don't know. It says that's the guy who was in Jane's Addiction and then was in Alanis Morissette.
No, that's not.
Oh,
right.
He's current. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No, that's
My mistake.
I've made plenty of mistakes on this
That's
show.
not one of them.
I talk out of my ass on a regular
Okay.
basis. That one I would.
So do they do a trade for you take Eric and we'll take Chris?
Yeah, I don't know
Alanis
how I don't
Morissette?
know how that all worked. And I think they've had a couple bass players since then, but
Okay.
but no, I that's one I was pretty confident I had right. In fact, didn't even consider it could possibly be wrong until you mentioned it. But he was definitely one of the key members.
Yeah. It just looks like he's kind of bounced around a little bit. Doesn't look like anything at the moment, but he played in Smashing Pumpkins for a little bit, Nine Inch Nails, Garbage, Alanis Morissette, like you said. He must just be a guy on the scene.
Yeah, he's
picks
just
up gigs.
but he's just kind of he's one of those guys who just doesn't seem to care, and he doesn't want to just come back to the band just to pad his pocketbook or do it because that seems like the right thing to do. He's almost like Izzy Stradlin in that regard.
Okay, well, that's cool.
It's like, I don't necessarily have. There's probably some animosity, but not a ton. I'm just really not interested. So I don't know. That's interesting, and I also think admirable.
It's respectable for sure. When I think of Perry Farrell, I think of the Woodstock 94 performance because we taped it off of pay-per-view.
And that was Porno for Pyros.
That was Porno for
right?
Pyros, yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there's some bizarre stuff in there, especially for an 11-year-old, which is what I was when I was watching it.
I don't recall.
But
I
it's
don't
just,
recall
there's
that
like
performance.
like topless fire dancers and
Yeah.
stuff, and a guy dressed as a clown, like pretending to cut himself with some kind of, rigged knife that squirts blood and stuff. Just like weird shit.
And that was the spirit of Lollapalooza when it started.
Yeah.
Now it's this, modern hipster thing over in Chicago every year. That's
totally different thing than what it ever was.
No discernible edge to it that I can tell.
I would say zero edge.
And it's largely
Once Jaden Smith was performing that.
and it's largely because of jagoffs my age who are still showing up there with their kids, not being able to let go of, because somebody my age 52, Lollapalooza, if you jumped on that ship away from the Sunset Strip scene into modern alternative grunge, whatever you want to call the hard rock scene of the day,
Yeah.
and you were in your early 20s when that was happening, That was the significant cultural shift of your lifetime. And those of us who can't let go of, moving on with their lives, which
it's hard to do.
You don't necessarily have to do that, but to show up at rock festivals when there's none of those bands are pertinent to you.
Yeah.
They're not relevant to you. They're not speaking to you. They don't want to speak to you. And yet here you are, dragging your kids along, forcing your music on your kids. Just stay away. Let the kids have their goddamn festival.
Yeah. Do you think that's what it is?
This is how it should be. A guy like me speaking about Lollapalooza that, yes, got its start when I was of that age.
Yeah.
But has since turned into something different. And it has no appeal to me. The name doesn't even represent what it used to represent.
No, it doesn't.
Why would I show up there? Nobody wants a 52-year-old guy.
No.
At the fucking rock festival.
But
it's just nobody wants that.
The difference to me is that it's a weird combination of both. There's bands that appeal to 52-year-old guys, but then there's music that appeals to teenagers, and it's a weird combination of the two. But I think the weird thing, it's not only, I don't know, I guess things change. People get involved. People sell intellectual properties to corporations or whatever it is, but the edginess is totally gone. That's what I think is kind of sad about it. I don't care what bands are performing. I don't expect it to be Body Count and Rollins Band and the Chili Peppers and Smashing Pumpkins.
What great days those were.
Yeah, but the edginess of what the festival is seems to be completely gone.
Yeah, and festivals in general are just, how much does it cost to get in, fucking Coachella? It's become a fashion show.
It is.
And
that's not even an exaggeration. It's 90% a fashion show with a soundtrack in the background.
And granted, Woodstock the pricing of it was not outrageous for the price of the day, and most people got in for free to that thing. Yeah. But make no mistake, those people in that crowd were not the scum of the country. They were not people living under viaducts. These were well-off people who were embracing the counterculture. That's kind of what's happening.
Sure. Yeah.
At these festivals. I'm just saying that, and yeah, there are bands intentionally inserted on the bill to appeal to that demographic, but in general, when you look down the list of those bands, you can't tell me what the fuck they are or what they sing or what they're trying to communicate, or even that you care about it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm really scratching my head until I see Perry Farrell's Kind Heaven Orchestra, and then Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators.
Yeah, I mean, what are those? What are the 90% of the Lollapalooza people going to think when Slash and Miles Kennedy step out on the stage?
Or these old farts, what are they doing out here?
I mean, I actually give those guys a ton of credit. I mean, it's a great business move, but for them to be invited to play and accept that invitation is pretty cool. And Guns N' Roses has lost their edge. I mean, their stuff has become kind of the old guy rock that's acceptable because it's kind of cool, So when they launch into Paradise City or Sweet Child of Mine, they will be playing those songs.
Yeah,
the crowd's gonna go crazy because they're pop hits.
Mm-hmm.
But just you go down the list of all the other bands. There's 80 to 100 bands
easily,
maybe.
Yeah, and
you don't know what the hell they are.
I'm okay with not knowing what this is.
Yeah. It's
okay.
A natural order of life.
But I will say one thing, and maybe I don't get it, and I'm an old guy yelling at the kids on the lawn or whatever. But the fact that Ariana Grande is a headliner, that would be like if one of the original Lollapaloozas had I don't know, Mariah Carey or someone as a headliner.
Taylor Dane is at
There you go.
Lollapalooza.
That's actually better. Mariah Carey's too good.
Yeah.
Taylor Dane is better.
That's definitely crazy to me. And Saturday Night Live, which used to be subversive, they trot out all the Pop-Tarts of the day.
Isn't that pretty much exclusively what it is?
It's not exclusively, but they don't miss an opportunity to bring the Ariana Grandes and Nicki Minaj's out, and it's just like this is nothing is subversive anymore. We've talked about this a couple episodes ago.
Yeah,
nothing is cracking through the mainstream anymore. That's not going to have a widespread appeal. It's just not happening anymore. The other great thing about Jane's is that, a lot of hard rock fans are fans of kick-ass guitar playing, and they're just like, oh, they killed the guitar solo, and they're no good guitar players anymore. Go listen to Jane's Addiction. Plenty of both coming from Navarro. I mean, it's the beautiful thing about them is that, they were alternative. They were anti what was going on in hard rock that day, but when it came to the guitar playing, it was still on point with what people were enjoying.
Yeah, it wasn't intentionally removing all those parts.
No,
it was just doing it a little bit different, but
not even that much different.
I was gonna say it's a little different. Some of maybe the verse playing is different.
Yeah, but not even that. I mean, they got a little more experimental, I would say, but there's plenty of riffs in
for sure.
Jane's music and plenty of great guitar solos. Mm-hmm. Was that a great guitar solo? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that's great, but the fact that it's even in there is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And he's an excellent guitar player. He's got all the things you want in a great rock player: attitude, authority, and just knows how to lay it down.
No shirt.
Well, if you he's a tiny little guy.
Is he a pretty small guy?
He's got to be. I think Carmen Electra was taller than him, which makes for some pretty interesting scenarios.
Yeah.
The mind races with what those two were able to accomplish together.
Yeah.
But now he's a tiny little guy, which is neither here nor there. But hey, the guy's in good shape. Why wouldn't you strip your shirt off?
I read one of the Dennis Rodman autobiographies where he talked about his relationship with Carmen Electra. You just brought it back to me because I hadn't thought about it. But I'll say, if that exact recollection that was in the book was swapped with genders and the word that she was using on him while they were making love, if that story came out about a man saying that to a woman, this man he would be shunned from the spotlight.
Yeah. Yeah. And there you go. There's the other thing. It's like, how come some stuff you never hear about it? Other stuff you hear about it instantly. Yeah. It causes an uproar.
Yeah.
It's just somebody.
It's like the Nirvana thing.
Somebody is making those decisions.
There's a decision maker saying this is
it. Is it the Illuminati? Whatever you want to call them.
I'm starting to believe in that. Starting today.
Somebody decides what becomes a news story, what doesn't, what becomes popular, what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not organically decided by consumers.
No, definitely not.
The citizens of this planet. It's just not how it's
so
works.
Weird, isn't it?
It's weird when you stop and think about it. But otherwise, you just go about your business and you're like, oh, this kind of happened and it's cool. But then you start to analyze it. It's like, well, why did it happen?
Yeah.
How did it happen?
Yeah. And then, like, as far as news stories, you'll see stuff on Twitter or something that's some story. Someone will tweet something that sounds like a news story, and they'll be like, why isn't anyone talking about this? And you're like, shut up. Leave me alone.
Why?
Yeah, it's true. There's all kinds of stuff like that.
Why isn't Pot of Thunder successful? Why isn't it a worldwide sensation?
I don't know, man.
Why did the Michael Jackson death parody song not become a comedic icon? The easy answer is both are shit. Okay, and I'm not even opposed to that as a plausible theory. In fact, it probably is the answer. But there's plenty of shit that ascends to. Look at some of these the YouTube or Instagram influencers out there.
That's the thing. When you put yourself up against things that have made it, it's a head scratcher.
And once again, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Why did this happen? Who made it happen? These are all viable questions.
Why is like carpool karaoke a cultural phenomenon, but Fireworks Kit or Scorpion song is ignored on the internet? I don't get it.
We could go on for hours.
Jimmy Fallon should be playing that with guests.
Well, what did I say to you? What did I say to you earlier this week? If Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel did the Jackson death parody that we came up with, if either of those guys released that 10 years ago, people would still be talking about it as a legendary piece of comedy. I'm convinced of that. And I might be, in fact, I probably am completely delusional. All I can tell you is that when that was playing again, Andy saw it, and you can't. The only guy I ever saw fake cry was SGS when he cut loose the e-commerce department at Playboy.
He fake cried?
I watched him force out a tear, and I was watching. I'm like, this guy is unbelievable. He can do this on cue.
That's how you get to that level.
And this is an inside conversation, but this is basically a guy who was in charge at Playboy, pretty much responsible for A, cutting loose the e-commerce department, which I was a part of, and B, cutting loose the online department, which you're both a part of.
Yeah.
End of that conversation, way inside stuff, but
yeah,
I am not capable of that. Andy was sitting across from me in the room. I've not heard that in 5 years at least. Tears were streaming down my face.
It's true.
And
I saw
you know what? I'm probably the only person who thinks it's funny. I don't care.
I feel that way.
You put that material in Fallon or Kimmel under their umbrella, that becomes a comedic icon that people are talking about.
I feel
10
that
years later.
I feel that way about so many things where I think it's hysterical, and sometimes I'll think of something from. It doesn't have to necessarily be something I do. It's not just like, oh, I'm hilarious, but like some weird thing that like one of my friends did or said or whatever in a band or something that happened. I'll just think of it randomly at work and almost start crying just by myself thinking about it and laughing to myself, and I have to like hide myself behind my monitors. And I know no one else thinks that, like I couldn't explain it if someone said, "What's so funny?" I'd say it and they'd be like, "That's not funny." And
that's pretty much anybody who's ever worked with me for the past 20 years. One of the things they always say about is just like, "Man, you just suddenly start laughing at stuff out of nowhere." I'm like, if you saw the conversations I have with people like Andy, or just the stuff that pops in, my wife, I'm sitting on the couch, I'll just start laughing, and she's like, "What are you laughing about?" And I usually just say nothing, because if I was to explain it, it would be a waste of both of our times, and she wouldn't think it's as funny. It pops into your head and you just start fucking cracking up at it.
Yeah, and you can't help it. I do that all the time.
Yeah. People say everywhere I've worked, they're just like, what are you laughing at? You're constantly
like a
laughing.
psycho, just laughing.
And it's like, you know what?
It's complete silence,
Right.
and then you burst out laughing.
Yes, exactly. And because most of it is coming at you on the internet, which
Yeah.
nobody else can see or hear.
Yeah.
Or it's coming at you in your own brain, which nobody else can see or hear.
Yeah.
And to reiterate, just be like, you know what? For me to explain it to you would be a colossal waste of both of our time.
Yeah.
So I'm just an idiot. That's
would.
that's the explanation.
You would feel bad about thinking it's funny, and then they would feel bad for you for thinking it's
Yes.
funny. It would just be bad across the board. It wouldn't add anything.
We're almost might as well just let it roll out, but yeah, you know, it was just we were getting to the end, and it just occurred to me that, you know, I do know this song. I've heard it tons of times, but for some reason, the title of it, I don't equate it to the song.
I didn't know what song it was till I
and it's like
listening.
I've heard it, but I could whenever I heard it, I would be, if somebody asked me what's the title of that song, I'd be like, I have no idea. Now that you mention it, no clue.
That's how I feel about most of their songs.
It kind of is, yeah. I mean, other than the iconic hits, the Jane Says, and bring out the steel drum, and, you know, sitting at the front of the stage with acoustics and stuff. And that's a genuine pop song.
Yeah.
Coming in the context of everything else they put out, it's another oddity. A very incredibly interesting group of guys, and individual and Perry Farrell. And what the Perry Farrell something orchestra?
What was it? Kind Heaven, I think.
That guy is just, I love that guy. And
Me too.
I wouldn't even say I'm a fan. I don't keep tabs on what he does. And like when he's out with Jane's, I'm more interested in what Navarro's doing. But in terms of great characters in rock and guys who just seem to embrace their role in with fame and influence, it doesn't get any better than that guy for me.
I'm with you.
That's hilarious.
I haven't kept up with him in like 20 years of what he was up to. But first of all, he's got one of the most unique voices out of anyone.
No question.
So that alone, and his presentation's great. I don't really like everything that I've heard that he's done. It's not all, you know, he's not like my guy where no matter what he does, I think is flawless or anything. But as far as the character goes, I'm a big fan too.
Yeah.
Like, I just remember him wearing, there was a phase, because I think he's a phase guy for sure. Mm-hmm. But there was a phase where he was wearing like bright colored women's pantsuits all the time. And when I saw an interview where someone asked him about it, and he was just talking about how great the colors are and why wouldn't you wear this?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Like he saw it in a store and was like, I have to have this. Is so much better than men's fashion.
He's
like lime green women's
so
pantsuit.
He encapsulates the don't give a fuck attitude. He just does whatever he damn well pleases, and what's not to respect about that?
Yeah,
I mean, he's one of these guys. To me, is one of the most enviable things you could say about someone is he is an individual who, by all appearances, seems to live life 100% on his own terms. You gotta fucking envy that.
How do you get to that level?
Who knows? If I knew, I'd be there. Believe me.
Because of course everyone wants to be like that, but like it would almost be an interesting experiment. Except there would be too many victims in this experiment. to see how quickly your life would fall apart if you started from like having an average, career in life to just doing whatever the hell you wanted. How quickly would your life fall apart?
Yeah. You'd run out of money inside of a year.
Yeah. What would you be doing for, you know what I mean? Like, how quickly would you be divorced and
lose
everything
all your worldly possessions?
But then yet some guys can just do it. I mean, I guess the good thing is you do it at a young age when you can, which is when a lot of people are like that. But then some of these guys just strike gold somehow when they're at that level.
Well, and that's another thing. The Lollapalooza Festival, he started that as a counterculture, against the grain thing. That it's got to be a $1 billion enterprise. That he's still I got to believe he's still the principal owner.
I don't think he is.
Or he just
I think
sold
he's
it
long
off?
gone. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think he has a relationship with it, and I think he sold it off to some,
I wonder if he
promoter.
kept like a licensing stake.
I
in
hope
it.
so.
But whatever it is, you can point to that as being the thing that gives him the freedom to do whatever the hell he wants to do. And he created it as something that was seemingly completely opposite of that. Just something completely risky and edgy.
Yeah.
And it allowed him to live as he chooses. Amazing.
Yeah.
Hats off to Mr. Perry Farrell. Incredible figure in music history.
He might still have something to do with it. I don't have the time right now to read it for everyone, but I thought he was totally removed.
Let's put it this way. He's not making a stupid... He's not going to go the way of Ace Frehley in terms of signing away his rights to something for nothing.
If he totally did sign away his rights, he has more money than he'll ever need.
He pulled a Sammy Hagar and got paid on the way out.
Yeah. Right.
Nobody fucked him over.
Right.
Nobody called the shots in that deal. He had all the leverage, all the terms. I mean, as this episode is going on, his stake in my...
Me too.
I never thought about it before. Now that we're talking about it, I'm just like, this guy's a fucking god.
Yeah.
This is a guy to be worshipped.
He's done whatever the hell he's wanted to do.
Exactly
Since
right.
probably he was born.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Well, on that note, it's time to vote. Hell or hallelujah? No, of course not. It is Sweet Surrender or Kick in the Crotch. Chris, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
All right. I'm going to give this song a Sweet Surrender.
It's sweet surrender.
Hell yes.
I don't know if it's my favorite Jane's Addiction song. Jane's Addiction, at this point in my life, not one of my all-time favorite bands, but I do respect them, of course, and enjoy them whenever I do hear them, but I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where I don't know, maybe it's the same it's like a micro version of pop culture. They're on my radar. I understand the significance, but they never really fully infiltrated my regular playlist. But definitely a cool song. Everybody in the band is on point. Everybody's playing something cool. All three musician guys are playing something cool. The drummer, the bass player, and the guitar player. Perry Farrell's voice.
Yeah,
is
I don't.
Awesome.
We haven't even mentioned Stephen Perkins, but he's a great drummer. Got a lot of tribal stuff going on in his approach, which again you wouldn't expect from those guys. But he also brings something interesting to the table. And this lineup, these four guys, are another testament to the unique chemistry of people coming together and creating something that's just so much bigger than the sum of the parts.
Mm-hmm. On that note, do you want to vote?
Yeah, Sweet Surrender for me.
It's sweet surrender.
Hell yes.
You know, again, didn't recognize it by the title, but once that bass line kicks in and the rest of it, it's like, oh yeah, Jesus, I've heard this song 100 times, but I never knew it by the title, which is weird.
Yeah.
Something else I never really thought about till this episode. It's you know, the top hits, yes, you know the title of Jane's Addiction known songs.
Yeah.
But the deep cuts, even the ones you've heard, the title, it just seems insignificant.
It does seem that way, right? It's odd.
But it's definitely a cool song. One that was in the rotation of the basement workout scene of the early 90s.
What else was in there? It was Mother's Milk.
It was Power Slave.
Hmm.
It was this album, Ritual de lo Habitual, not the first one. And there was another one that I'm blanking on. I think I blanked on it in the original episode, and I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
This is the same short circuit of the brain that leads me to continually believe that Goat's Head Soup came after It's Only Rock and Roll, even though I've been corrected on that dozens of times in my life.
It's one of those things. All right, well, hey, who would have guessed it? It's that time.
All right, Hammond!
Here's some tribal drumming for you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Paul.
Peter Criss, big influence on Stephen Perkins.
I would be surprised if he wasn't. I would be surprised if you brought up Peter Criss to Stephen Perkins. He didn't speak of him with reverence.
Yeah. I don't know that, but I'm going to agree with it. So, the question Paul Stanley wants to know is if, is Ain't No Right a rock and roll boner classic, as voted by the two boners in this room?
You awake over there?
Yeah, I'm awake.
My vote's in. What?
My vote's in too.
See, here's another one. Just burst out laughing. Nobody knows what it is.
Yeah.
It's just you never know with us.
You never know. You want to vote first? You want me to vote?
You can go first.
All right. Soft wiener.
Yep, I was going to say the same thing. Nothing against it, but I think there are other Jane's tunes that are a little more significant and deserving of the title. But I definitely like the fact that the song spurred this discussion.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of stuff we talked about that I was aware of, but I never gave much thought to.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting.
All that drama building up to that was just me trying to find the Twilight Zone clip. And that's also why
And
I was
you were
laughing
looking
to
through
myself.
some of the other names of some of the other clips.
Yep.
Okay, what clip made you laugh and play it now?
Okay, I'll show you. You'll like this. I don't know why, because it's not even like the funniest thing, but this is what made me laugh.
Now,
I don't remember what the reason for it was.
Yeah,
Why was there a werewolf version of that?
what's the title of the file? Werewolf?
It's Psycho Doctor Music - Werewolf.
Oh, no.
And that just
Don't
made me
remember
laugh
that.
because I don't remember why. Nick would remember. I'm sure other people might remember, but there's the classic Nick version, there's the Brian Sherwood version, and then the werewolf version. I don't remember. So
Yeah, I have a soft spot for the Sherwood
Yeah.
version.
and that's the one we've probably heard the most.
Yeah.
The original, but that one, the werewolf, I don't remember.
Yeah.
So it just made me laugh because I'm sure it was dumb but funny.
Of course it was. What else would it be?
Yeah. All right. Well, you got time for a quick round?
I do.
All right. Well, let's yard it up.
Swing away.
Yes.
Chief.
All right. Today's Yardo questions comes to us from Simply Boner. And not just the word boner. First name Simply, last name Boner. All right, Simply Boner. Question 1.
SB for short.
Yes, SB. Name each of your favorite Kiss and non-Kiss music videos and what makes them so great in your opinion. That's hard. Favorite Kiss video. I'm gonna go. Jeez. It's gotta be an 80s Kiss video because they're so ridiculous. Oh, God. You know what I'm gonna go with? I might change my mind from one day to the next, but right now I'm gonna go with You Make Me Rock Hard.
Yeah,
Mainly
that is a good one.
For the Paul Stanley chainmail lifeguard shirt that he's wearing. So that's my Kiss pick.
Yeah, what a great. I mean, that's one that takes a lot of heat, but just the title and just the end of the chorus.
Yeah.
Rock hard, baby, all night. So great. Yeah. So over the top. Just audacious ridiculousness of the day.
It is.
How can you not respect it?
I think it was a little bit too far over the line for a lot of people, but not for me.
No. Yeah. So what?
Yeah, so what?
How can you not like that double entendre in this title? Hilarious.
Yeah. And then I'll say non-Kiss video. I don't know, but it's hard for me to pick my favorite anything because it's going to change constantly, so I'll just name something I like. I thought about this recently. Is the Andrew WK She Is Beautiful video.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's great. You got to see it. It's just the way it's shot. It's just this, it's Andrew WK in a house, and then it's just cutting to him playing the instruments like by himself and just like running around the house dancing, singing into the camera. But it's just fun and silly. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of that video. So that's
I've never even heard the song.
Oh, okay. Maybe one day we'll pull that one.
Check that out.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Kiss video. I guess I'll vote for Lick It Up just because it was the first non-makeup video, and then it exploded into a food orgy. Something else that you simply have to respect.
Yeah.
It's not to like.
Yeah.
And then for the non-Kiss video, I mean, it would be obvious or easy for me to point back to the self-pleasuring inducing clips from Britney Fox, Girl School, or Loverboy, Hot Girls in Love.
Yeah.
And I still love them, but I'm going to invoke one that's come back on my radar recently, and Andy mentioned them earlier in this episode. Liar by the Rounds.
Okay.
It came back on my radar because someone at work called someone else at work a liar.
Yeah.
And just when she used that word, I just started cracking up. I'm just like, there are not very many worse things you could say about someone than they're a liar.
Yeah.
And my instant reaction was to go to YouTube and pull that video up. And the one sequence when he's in the cop outfit, and he's just pacing around, and then he just like suddenly like tilts his head violently. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? What is he doing? It's just. And then he's, painted red head to toe at one point. Hilarious. Love it.
That's a great one.
I'm going to have to revisit that album. I think Wait is the album.
Yeah.
I need to revisit. He had a great band going on.
Yeah.
The guitar player, I can't think of his name, Chris something, but he had a great unit happening in that one. I'm going to have to revisit that one.
Question 2. Name your favorite video game and favorite board game.
Well, I'm going to say, instead of video game, I'm going to say arcade game. Because
Okay.
I was back in the day when I was 13, 14 years old, and the stand-up arcade games were all the rage, and there were, arcades everywhere. My favorite was Scramble.
Okay.
It was a spaceship, shooter bombing game, and you had to run the spaceship through all these obstacles and get to the main enemy depot and blow it up.
Okay.
It was a scrolling game, so the action scrolled from right to left
Instead of a vertical.
Right.
Yeah.
That is probably my all-time favorite arcade game. I was definitely into Donkey Kong, Missile Command, Pac-Man, of course, Asteroids, all the classics. And what was the second half of that?
Board game.
Board game. I guess I'd have to just go to the staple, Monopoly. It's one that we played in the family, and
Yeah.
good game. You learn how to screw people over, take advantage of people, ruin them financially. I mean, lessons in life that would pay dividends later on if you were paying attention.
Yeah, no wonder. I never really paid it. I didn't play that game the right way, so. I'm gonna follow your lead and pick an arcade game. I don't know about favorite, but when I was a kid and I'd go to an arcade, like the bowling alley or wherever we'd go, if they had the Simpsons video game, I always thought it was such a treat. Like, it was so exciting to see the Simpsons game in person. Which, I don't know, those are probably after your time a little bit, but those like 4-player joystick and button where you could have 4 people in playing a different character, but
I
you're playing
remember
at the
when that
same
one
time.
came out.
Yeah. There was a Ninja Turtles one too that was like the same game
Right.
almost, but just different.
Right.
You do the same things. It's
Yeah.
just different characters, different bad guys or whatever. But yeah, I would say those games. My favorite board game. I liked Mousetrap. I think that's the right name. Mostly because that was just one of those. I don't even know if I played the game or if I just put the machine together. What are those called? Those Rube. Is it Rube Goldberg? Is that the right name? Those types of machines. Like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Not even sure what you're referring to.
Like the beginning of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, where it's like this thing cuts a string and then a ball falls on a thing.
That.
And it rolls
Yeah,
down.
I don't know that
Yeah.
terminology. No.
There was I think it was Mousetrap was a board game that had like a mini plastic version of one of those.
Yeah.
And
No,
I-
you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
And I would just mostly play with that.
Yeah.
All right. Question 3. Put together your ultimate rock band with performers from 80s rock who could hold the interest of the current generation of young people at a concert. These dickheads can pull out their cell phone to take a photo, but if they are paying more attention to the phone than the band, they will need to be poked with fiery rock and roll boners. Play ball, Senior Boneski. A little bit off the rails there at the end of this yard of questions, but
Well, I'm just going to revert back to who we talked about today. Perry Farrell, technically, not even technically, came out in the 80s.
he's an 80s guy.
And he's still at it, and
Yeah.
he's still an icon of music. So it really starts and ends there. And
Yeah.
he could pretty much surround himself with anybody, and he'd be the focal point. And he'd be the guy. So
He would
that's
be
why I'm
a
voting.
good one. I feel like he could cross over in some way. I don't have the answer as to how. If I did, I'd be out there making money right now, but he's an interesting enough guy to appeal to people. But so that's the problem. You can't just put together like your ultimate 80s hard rock band,
Yeah.
because that's not really the question here. It's to try to appeal to a younger generation.
Yeah, and really it comes down to the front man. So you've got Perry Farrell, guy we talked about a couple episodes ago, Bon Jovi. He's not exactly the alternative kids, but like kids, younger people are into new country or just
Yeah, there you go.
classic tunes. He's still a relevant guy who came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really think of anybody else offhand, but of the two guys who we did an episode today, other a couple weeks ago, I think they fit the bill.
Yeah, that's true. The majority of the guys in the band, it's not, I don't want to say no one cares, because that's the wrong way to say it. But what I mean is, for this question, who's going to appeal to a young generation? It's not going to be like, oh, this drummer. I don't think that's going to make the difference. It might make the difference as far as the sound or the chemistry, but that's not going to be what people are
care
attracted
less
to.
about that nowadays than ever before.
Yeah, right.
Make no mistake about it.
Yeah.
Whether you think that sucks, which I kind of do, or you don't care, which is how most people think about it, it is a fact. It's just not... Musicians just being respected for their musicianship in the context of bands you want to see and hear is just not something that people put a premium on anymore.
Yeah. So what we're saying is Perry Farrell's Kind to Heaven Orchestra is going to be the sleeper hit of Lollapalooza 2019. Mark it down now. Coming up in like a month? I think it's August.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. So thank you to Senior Boner, also known as Simply Boner, for his Yardo questions, or her Yardo questions, I don't know. If you want to submit your Yardo questions, go to potofthunder.com and make it happen.
Yeah, and pretty much nothing is gender specific anymore, so it could be a woman.
It doesn't have to be. Why? Yeah.
You're not supposed to, put somebody in that box anymore. Gender roles, or it's all out the window.
Yeah, the line's been blurred.
Yes, it has.
All right. Well, thank you, and next week we will be back to celebrate our nation's independence.
A few days early, but it is the week of 4th of July. And
what's Monday?
In the past, we've had something special and spectacular. So
Ooh, I hope we can deliver.
Yeah, it's, manage your expectations so you don't get disappointed. But traditionally, we've had good stuff happening on the occasion of the birth of America. So see what we can make happen.
Yeah.
Ooh.